Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Today, we are diving into a topic that so many of us can relate to, but we rarely talk about openly: imposter syndrome. And to help us unpack this, we have the incredible Ramona Galey joining us. Ramona is not only an award winning author and founder of the Alignment Circle, but also a unique voice in the world of personal transformation. Fun fact, she is a vibrational mentor and even channels insights from opera to help coaches, consultants, and healers break through self doubt and embrace their full potential and true potential. Ramona has an impressive background, listeners, in classical musician, as systems analyst, stockbroker, and nonprofit leader. Yet, like many of us, she has grappled with feelings of unworthiness and even had to rebuild her life at age 55 after the loss of her life partner. And today she's on a mission to help others skip the struggle and dive straight into self-acceptance and abundance. So if you have ever felt that sneaky imposter syndrome creeping in, this is the conversation for you. So let's get ready and dive deep, listeners. So, Ramona, welcome to the show, and it is an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Son. I was so glad to be here, and I'm so glad to be on this particular topic. I find it such a remarkably helpful topic for everyone, for anyone. It doesn't have to be a business person, just anyone can benefit from releasing this particular type of resistance.
True, that is true. So, Ramona, you have lived so many lives in one lifetime, from classical musician to stockbroker to a spiritual mentor. How did imposter syndrome show up for you through these different phases?
Well, for me, imposter syndrome is endemic. It's deep inside. It's not really topical. I know it appears topical, like I'm trying to do this new thing, or I am doing this job that somebody's paying me for, and I feel like if they just, if they find out who I really am, or what, what my flaws all, then I'll be fired or I'll be, exposed. But I think it goes even deeper than that. I think it goes all the way back to really probably childhood. At any time that we feel like we have not measured up and that we've been called out for something, or we've been, whatever trauma or injuries that we might experience, disappointments, if we don't know how to let those things go, they go inside us, and they kind of fester a little bit, and we're not aware of it until it really piles up, which, typically for a lot of us will happen a bit later in life. Maybe in your 40s or 50s, you might start saying, wow, I am just so tired and so old, but this is not age. This is the piling up of the responses to all these things that happen to us. And one of the ways that it kind of burbles out of us is this imposter syndrome, this thing that tells us, I'm not good enough. I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. I don't even know if I'm good enough yet or not. Like I keep searching for ways to prove that I'm good enough. And it can be so debilitating if you don't have the skills to let go of what's under it. I guess that's what I'm wanting to say, that it will continue to burble up no matter what situation you find yourself in.
That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Um, so many people believe imposter syndrome is something to manage, or go through, just navigate through it. But you emphasize, Ramona, breaking free from it. So, what's your approach to truly eliminating those feelings of self doubt?
So, releasing self doubt is an art. It's something to be remembered. I don't feel like I ever actually really teach this to people. I help people remember because when we're born, think about it. Does a baby have self doubt? No. Does a toddler have self doubt? No. They might be shy. They might be afraid of something, but they don't doubt themselves. They don't say, "Oh, I'm hungry, but maybe I'm not. What if I'm not hungry?" They just say, "I'm hungry. Feed me now."
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
"You hurt me. Ouch." They don't say, "Well, maybe that wasn't so bad." They haven't learned yet to kind of doubt their own instincts, to doubt what their body is telling them. This hurts, this feels good, this is hungry, this is cold. And this is where self-doubt is. And so we have a whole bunch of tools to eliminate self-doubt. And the interesting thing is that there have been tools been used for this probably since the dawn of mankind. Something like meditation. This is an ancient practice, and it helps so much. And most of the spiritual training market, the mindset market, the personal development market, even the business coaching market teaches meditation as one of those tools. And the problem is that they teach it as a standalone technique. So go and meditate. If you meditate every day for 15 minutes or an hour, and if you sit in this right position, you say these certain words, or you make this certain noise, or you do this thing with your mind, then everything will be fine. And here's the problem with that. There's not much understanding of the need for and the benefits of momentum. So whatever tool you use, you think it's working because it feels good. But then when it wears off, you're left kind of scratching your head and feeling kind of overwhelmed about how much work it takes, And then what happens because of all of that is you start to get this seesaw effect where you go up and down in vibration. You vibrate and you feel good. Then you watch the news and you feel bad. Then you vibrate, you meditate and you feel good. Then you go to a protest or listen to a friend complain on the phone and you feel bad. You go back and forth and you feel like you're working really hard, but you're not actually making any progress towards whatever it is that you want, which in this case will release self-doubt. So nothing really changes. It holds you kind of in a static place, kind of spinning your wheels. And then you think there's something wrong with you, right? Well, everybody else meditates, what's wrong with me? So instead of that, what we do is we consciously focus on building momentum towards feeling better. So after you meditate, you don't turn on the news. You don't participate in the low vibration conversation. So that's the first thing. And then you start to acquire the skills to kind of cable or connect one tool to the next, to the next, to the next. So what we're consciously focusing, building momentum towards anything that's wanted, and feeling better, getting what you want, abundance, better relationships, you can start to feel better immediately, and then you continue to build on that feeling. And so ultimately, you're always getting improving feelings and improving results, and you don't get discouraged because you can see the actual impact in your life. Everything around you starts to change when you've got positive momentum. So that's just one of the tools. But that's a good example.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. So some people may argue that a bit of self doubt is necessary to keep us grounded and humble. Do you think imposter syndrome has any positive aspects, or is it something we should always try to overcome?
I understand why people think that. I really do, because we're taught to fear our own desires, to not trust our own desires. And so in my belief system and the way I teach and what gets such wonderful results with my clients is understanding that a desire is one thing and the resistance to it or the entanglement of it, which can be just any belief that's limiting or whatever, that limiting belief, we would call that an entanglement. So the desire itself is divine and it feels wonderful, but it's not yearning. It's not trying really hard. It's not wanting but doubting at the same time. It's not that push-pull. There's no mix to it. The desire itself feels wonderful and is pure love. It's pure good. You cannot hurt anybody with it. You wouldn't. And so it's the entanglement that says, well, you better watch out because so-and-so might not think well of you if you do that, or you better watch out because you might get above yourself. You might get too big for your britches. You might get arrogant. You might get cruel. You might get greedy. These are all entanglements on the desire to feel good, to have plenty, to be able to be in a position to help people. And what I can say about that is the desire is always good. And I teach people how to trust their desires and to identify the entanglements with the purpose of releasing them. And when you release that entanglement and you can feel that pure desire, you can feel it to every cell in your body, to the marrow in your bones. You can feel that it is good, and you can feel that you will be able to help people as you move towards that desire, because desires are always made of love. They're divine. So it's the entanglements that we let go. We never let go of our desires. Actually, we can't let go of our desires. We can pretend, we can say, oh, I used to want to do that, but I got over it. We can pretend, but our desires never really go away. And that's a good thing because they're pure, they're good, they're love. And so it's really just a matter of separating those two. It takes a little practice, a little skill, and then you're off to the races. And it works wonderfully for overcoming that exact thing that you described.
Yeah, I agree with you. You talk a lot about alignment and vibrational focus, Ramona. So, can you explain how these tools can help someone struggling with imposter syndrome to find their true purpose and self acceptance?
Absolutely. Yeah. The imposter syndrome, just like all self-doubt, it acts as a kind of a smoke screen, so we can't actually see ourselves. And if it's bad enough, we're actually afraid to look at ourselves. We're afraid of what we'll find. So removing that fear is the number one order of the day. And we do that through authenticity. We do it through focus. We do it through unconditional love. These are all tools that are available to us, and they're states of being that we are meant to be in, that we revel in. Everything starts to relax. Say, take focus, for example. Everybody knows who's ever used a camera, or even a phone, like a camera on a phone. You lift up your camera and you look around and you say, okay, I want to take a picture of that thing right there. So then you try to exclude everything else from the frame and you just focus, and then you take the picture. And you could be the most awful photographer in the world, and you would still be able to take that picture because the camera works. You push the button. In that moment, you have chosen what to focus on. But we don't give ourselves permission to focus on what we want in our real lives. And it's astonishing how little we give ourselves permission. We think we have to focus on what everybody else says we should focus on, or whatever is the loudest, or the most garish, or the most tragic, or whatever it is. And so when we start learning to train our focus, then we start choosing how we feel, because wherever we focus, that's where we go. They teach this to race car drivers. When you're going around the track and your car starts to spin out, the natural thing is to look towards where you're going and go, oh no, and watch it come up and hit you. But they train them counterintuitively to look where they want to go instead of where they're going. And the car naturally rights itself most of the time. It fixes itself. It's almost like magic. We know it's not magic. It's your subconscious and your reflexes and whatever. But it feels like magic. And that's the way it feels in our lives when we start choosing our focus and we start focusing on what we want and where we want to go. And I don't mean what we want like in a yearning way, like as if we already have it, the joyfulness of it, the pure desire of it. When we start looking that way, we start going that way, and we feel better immediately. No matter what else is going on around us, just like the photographer with the camera. Doesn't matter that there's dead flowers over to your left and a dead tree over on your right. And in the middle, there's this beautiful flower. You just focus in, you grab that one flower. It's the same skill. It's the same concept. And it works beautifully to get people out of self-doubt, just beautifully.
True. That is true. That was a lovely explanation.
Thank you.
Starting over at 55, Ramona, after a major loss, it is incredibly daunting. It does. What advice would you give to someone who feels it's too late to rebuild their life and embrace their authentic self?
That's a great question. And I would say, first of all, it's never too late. And I realize that can be sounding kind of cliche. You hear about, Colonel Sanders didn't get Kentucky Fried Chicken off the ground until he was 76, and Whistler's mother didn't become an artist until she was 80 or whatever it was. So you hear these stories, but I think it's very easy, especially if someone is sitting in self-doubt, for them to say, well, that's good enough for them, but it doesn't apply to me. And so I would say, here's how you prove it to yourself. Start right now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to get training. You don't have to get coaching. You don't have to read a new book. You don't have to attend a workshop. You don't have to learn how to meditate. Start right now and take a deep breath. You're going to do something you've been doing your entire life. You know how to do this. Take a deep breath and let it out. Take another one and let it out. Feel into your body as you do this. Feel the way your lungs feel, the way your nose or your mouth feels. Just focus. Take control of your own focus and focus on your breath and relax into your breath and feel your body. Now you have started. When you can feel your body like this, you're in the present. You're in the here and now. It's the very first reminder skill that my clients start with, and you can start right now. And once you feel that, you will feel how present you are in this world, that your age has nothing to do with anything, your situation, your financial situation, your physical, your spiritual, your sexual, your gender, your race, your height, none of those things have anything to do with it. Be right here, right now, and feel the magic start. It doesn't take long.
Lovely, lovely. That's really, really encouraging. There's a lot of talk about needing to just push through feelings of inadequacy to succeed. Do you think it's an effective approach, Ramona, or is there more to conquering imposter syndrome?
I think it's an effective approach at first. For very young, for very idealistic, for people with a lot of energy, they do get some momentum going with that. And then it's like any high friction activity. If you take sandpaper and you're trying to get a nice smooth gloss, if you do too much sandpaper or if you choose a grit that's too rough, you'll get the opposite. And it's a lot like that. So feel the pain and do it anyway, push through, discipline. All these things are high friction activities, and they wear away at our souls, at our spirits, at our confidence, at our enthusiasm for life, at our desire to learn, our knowing of our own expansion, the connection of who we are with all that is. All of those things just eat away at us eventually, and eventually they don't work anymore. So I will say it's a little tougher to teach a younger person, like my techniques than it is to teach an older person, because an older person has experienced the fatigue and the friction and the difficulties, and so they're more motivated to switch. And a very young person knows, you try to get a 3-year-old to have discipline, they're gonna, yeah, no way. And that's not because they're not capable, and it's because they know better. And so in between childhood where we know better and older where we're more motivated to find a different way, there is a space in there where people are looking very strongly to prove themselves or to just do it, any way possible. And so I think it really kind of depends on where we are developmentally as to how open we are to changing that. It definitely works for some people. Here's the big problem with it. When you look at, for example, an athlete and you find out that they shoot 1,000 baskets, let's say, a day, and they've been doing it since they were 12, then you think, oh, well, I have to have discipline. What you don't realize that they loved what they were doing. They loved every minute of it. It wasn't a sacrifice. You look at it and you say, well, I don't really like doing this, but I'm going to do it because this is how I get results. But that's not why they did it. They did it because they loved it. And so it's very easy to get taken off track by the examples that are shown to us all the time by media, by entertainment industry. We think that we have to be just like them in order to get their results. And what we need and really crave to do is be ourselves and get our own results, which are equally magnificent, but different.
Great. That's really great.
Thank you.
In your experience, Ramona, how does imposter syndrome specifically affect those in leadership, like coaches and consultants? And what shifts do you think they need to make?
Yeah, great. Really great question. So when we step into a position of leadership, we have more eyes on us
Yes.
than usual, typically. And this is where authenticity is so important. And I want to make really clear from the very beginning, I don't mean honesty when I talk about authenticity. A lot of people assume they're kind of the same, or they think they're maybe the same. So honesty is I mean, I've been honest my entire life, very direct, probably some people would say too blunt when I was younger. And I would just say it exactly how I saw it, and never stole anything, honest. But I wasn't authentic. I was too afraid to be authentic. I had big time imposter complex. And because I thought that I was evil inside, really, I thought there was something really dramatically wrong with me, and I didn't want anybody to find that out. So I was very uncomfortable for people to look right at me. What if they see me? What if they look right at me and see the real me? Wouldn't that be awesome? And it was a terrible feeling, but I didn't know any better. I mean, it's not like I had that feeling one day a week. And so I could say, oh, yeah, that's a really bad feeling. But, compared to this, I just didn't know any better. But when I started to do this work, when I had my spiritual awakening and I started to do this work, and I realized, wow, my authenticity it's who I am. It's honoring who I actually am. And I believe you cannot truly be an effective, loving, divine leader without your own authenticity. And so for anyone who wants to lead others, I would say focus on your own authenticity. So, and most of the market is teaching, specific techniques, again, meditation, or whether it's, rampages of appreciation or journaling or whatever it is. But they teach it based on whatever works for them, or whatever has worked for others, like their other clients. And now here's why that's a problem. So it requires that you follow someone else's guidance for both timing and technique. And so what happens because of that is you're still not following your own guidance, which is what authenticity is, which ultimately means you're not living your life freely and joyfully. So instead, what we do is we focus on authenticity and embracing how we actually feel right now. We don't put any happy sticker over it. We don't sugarcoat it. We look at how we're feeling right now. That's valuable, valuable feedback, and it's who we are. So then we can follow our own guidance purely and without any resistance. So we can step away from that particular feeling by changing our focus, but we're not denying the feeling. And ultimately, we get the life and the outcomes that we actually want, and not what anyone else thinks we want. Now we are a true leader, because it doesn't matter what anybody else wants. It doesn't matter what our followers are demanding or asking for or pleading for, or in our perception, even needing. We stay true to ourselves, and those who are ready can follow us. And there's no persuasion, there's no manipulation, there's no cajoling, there's none of that. A true leader, the way we know in our hearts that we are, that we can be certainly on this planet, but that we already are in our hearts. That's a matter of uncovering our hearts. And it's the only answer. There's no technique, there's no book, there's no, assertiveness training, there's no delegation, there's no monkeys and all this stuff that we talk about. We have to go inside ourselves first and foremost.
True. I totally agree with that. And before we wrap up, Ramona, you have mentioned that feelings of unworthiness often stem from societal pressures or past traumas. What practices do you recommend for someone who is listening to this conversation and they're willing to start healing and rewriting their self-perception?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. The answer is to start now. And what I mean by that is get into the here and now. Like actually be present in the now, in your body. This can be very scary as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and as a survivor of my partner dying in my arms, and multiple car wrecks in between, and financial struggles when I was younger. Like, there's lots of trauma and tragedy and injury that I could carry around with me. But when I start now, and I still do this, I start now. When I start right now. I come into my breath, into my body, into my heart, and I start now. In the present, none of that stuff from the past exists. And I'm not talking about denying it or repressing it or lying about it. I'm saying it doesn't actually exist. When you step into the here and the now, and all of that weight falls away, I promise you, the feeling good will make it worth it to come back to the now, come back to the now, and come back to the now over and over and over again. And it takes a little training, it takes a little practice, some support, but it's not hard, it's not complicated. You just start now. Start right now. You don't need a single thing. Start right now. All of that so-called trauma and history and memories can and do fall away very naturally, and they don't exist. So the only place they exist is if we're carrying it, right? It's the past is gone, the future hasn't happened yet. All we have is right now. We can bring the past and the future into our now by worrying about it or by, remembering it. But in the here and now, it doesn't actually exist. So this is where I invite everyone to live their lives right here, right now, and you can start now.
Lovely, lovely, Ramona. What a lovely conclusion to this conversation. And if our listeners, they want to connect with you and seek some wisdom about how to eliminate imposter syndrome and start the journey of healing and self perception, self compassion, how they can start.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, they can come to ramonagaley.com, and that's where my social media links are. That's where my programs are shown on the website. They can see some old blogs. I haven't added a blog recently, but there are blogs on there. They can see some podcasts, other podcasts where I've guest appeared, and they can get a link to my book. My book is From Lonely to Fearless, and you can find it on Amazon, just From Lonely to Fearless. But ramonagaley.com is kind of the major hub where they can find anything and get in touch with me. There's a contact us page, and I'd love to hear from anybody that's been listening to our show. Would love to talk to you.
Lovely. We'll have all the details in the show notes for our listeners. And Ramona, thank you so much for such an insightful and an inspiring conversation on overcoming imposter syndrome and discovering our true selves. And your journey and I believe wisdom are such a gift, and we are so grateful for the guidance you have shared with us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sana, for your kind words and for your lovely energy. I have really enjoyed this visit, and I hope your audience got something out of it. And I'd love to hear from you or them anytime.
Definitely. And to our listeners, if you resonated with Ramona's story or are ready to break free from self doubt, be sure to check out the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform and connect with Ramona. Until next time, remember to embrace your uniqueness, break free from those mental barriers, and keep showing up as the amazing, authentic you. This is Sana on the Mindful Living signing off.